Amen. So what we're doing is, we're seeing if we can take a regular passage from the Great Controversy, page 611, paragraph 1, and we're seeing what information we can extract from that when we start making some application. Now, I think maybe I confused people when I said application, because when we make application, we take a statement and we apply it to our own history, but she's already done that. So I think people were wondering, well, how can you make another application on top of that? So there was maybe a bit of confusion on that. And when other people started to say, so what we want to do is take 1840, which is Islam, take that out of the structure that she's giving to us, so we'll make a different application, and then we're going to create this structure. So we're going to get 1840 and shift it back to 9/11, because at 9/11 we've got 1840 radical Islam being restrained, 9/11 radical Islam being restrained, and we've got Revelation 18 coming down, because we already taught that in our movement. So they create this different application, and then they maintain the Sunday law here because it was already there. So essentially what they did was they took that line here, Sunday law, here 1840, and moved this back here. So you have 1840, and then you create 9/11. So that's how that structure was created, by moving 1840 back. The people who did that didn't tell me what to do with the Sunday law. I'm guessing what they would have done would put 1844 here. And so they've created this structure. That's how they made the application. So I'm not opposed to that. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying it's built upon many premises that you can't directly take from the way Ellen White's doing it. So I'm suggesting maybe she wants to teach us something beyond this application. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm not saying it's wrong. So what we then considered was, if we kept the structure, 1840 was indeed Islam. So we've got Islam at the Sunday law. Then there was a suggestion made that there's persecution that's being brought to view in the Protestant Reformation. We can see this, the Holy Roman German Empire is going to start persecuting God's people. So we had persecution there. So we could draw some truths like that. Then we looked at 1838 to 1840. If you go to the media, it tells you that there's an agitation that's happening in Europe. So we've got this idea of an agitation in this history, and we know, page 5, that there's an agitation in the world that is going on before the Sunday law, and the agitation is for a Sunday law. They want to agitate the Sunday law issue. So when we see the agitation, then when our third angel's message, the prediction that we're giving, which is, what did we say the prediction was for 605? Religious intolerance. So when we saw this religious intolerance, that's exactly what we can pick up from the Protestant Reformation. The Protestant Reformation is about religious intolerance, and the religious intolerance is being driven by the papacy controlling the state. So you have a church-state relationship, and so we can pick up that. In the Protestant Reformation, even if we're not going to do it on a structure, can we see Islam involved in that story? Is Islam involved in the Protestant Reformation?
Yes.
Everybody know that? Yes. Who doesn't know? Okay, so a couple of people don't know. Do you know?
Yes.
Explain the role of Islam in the Protestant Reformation. So make sure they can hear you at the back.
We know very well that Islam is raised during the Dark Ages, around the 7th century.
Can you hear him? They can't hear you, and it's the brother at the back that doesn't know.
Okay.
So project your voice or turn around.
I'm saying that Islam rised into power around the 7th century during the Dark Ages. And it helped so much in persecuting and shutting the light. I don't know how I can phrase it.
No? Okay. Do you know?
I can try.
Go ahead.
Okay, the 3 words of Revelation chapter 8.
Before you carry on, remember the rule. Easy first, then go. So I'm suggesting we don't need to worry about any woes. All I want to know is what is Islam doing in the Protestant Reformation?
Okay, it's simply like one sentence is it served to suppress the powers of the papal powers from persecuting, and it was like retarding the intensity of the persecution during the Dark Ages. The Second War played that role much.
Tell me like an event or the history, a bit of detail. So it's summarize what you said. It serves to restrain the papacy.
Yeah.
Okay, a bit more detail. This is the German Reformation.
Okay, I don't have much historical details. All I know is like the Eastern Roman Empire, which was at Constantinople, was brought down by the Islamic powers. That is the much I can tell about.
Okay, so Constantinople is Turkey. That's not Germany.
Yeah.
So why is that? Why is Constantinople affecting Germany? We're talking about Germany.
Okay, there is something about there's this wall. I forget its name. But I'm not much into detail. I don't have much detail about that.
Brother Manjit? Just a simple version of...
2 things. First of all, Islam recognized true Christians to apostate Christians. That's the first thing. Second, they made it their policy.
Let's not rush that. So Islam is going to make a distinction between the true followers of God, Christian, and the fourth one. So that's one point.
The second point was they made it a policy that every time the papacy would attack the Protestants, they would attack the papacy or the papal armies to basically save the Protestants.
So there's two points about Islam in the Protestant Reformation. One is they distinguish between the two Christians, and also they protect the Christians by hindering the armies of Rome. And the armies of Rome are the Holy Roman Empire, which is Germany. Anybody else wants to add to that? Does that make sense? So we've got Islam involved in that. So he makes a prediction based upon information that he can see. We'd make a prediction based upon information that we can see. And the prediction that we're making is, Ellen White calls it, when the son-in-law issue is agitated. And it says it couldn't have happened before. So there's some events that are occurring before the Sunday law, just like there are some events occurring before 1840. And it's all media driven. I want us to see that. The media is driving that, is giving us the information that we need. If they didn't tell us, we wouldn't know. So that's what we've got so far. Then we've got 1840 to 44. So my brother said, well, 1844 is a waymark, it's a shut door, and it's a change of ministration by Christ. So he's going to parallel that, and he says, in our line, there's going to be a change of ministration of Christ. And in this history, it's holy place to most holy place that he leaves. And where do we mark that? Close of probation, Daniel 12:1. So now from this simple statement, we can take 40 to 44 as a period of time which was a glorious manifestation of God's power, and we can take this, and what history do we call this? What dispensation is that we've just created? This is a dispensation now. We can call it the latter rain, we can call it the Sunday law history. So I'm going to call it, this is the dispensation of the Sunday law. In that history, the Sunday law history is what? It's a glorious manifestation of God's power. And that glorious manifestation of God's power, what kind of models do we use to describe what that looks like? So I'll give a suggestion. No one's going to give one. God's people, what's going to happen to God's people? They're going to be lifted up as an ensign, and when everyone sees them, what are they going to see? They're going to see God's glory in some shape or form shining from those people. And what do we call that? The living, we can call it the living testimony. They see human beings who are manifesting God. So we've got all of that just in the same way, 1840 to 1844, and I think she uses the term living testimony in that history. So we can start making real serious parallels here, which I called applications. Anything else people see? Be quick if you can see something, because I want to read something. But I don't want to, I want to give us all an opportunity to add something here, because there's things that some people are seeing. Remember, we're all brethren here, and you don't look silly in a class. Don't be afraid to say something wrong.
I will take us back. Can we see the glorious manifestation of God's power from 9/11 to Sunday?
You can. I'm not, as I said, I'm not opposed to this. I'm not trying to fight against this, but I want to try and keep the structure as she created it for us. Because we can put October 1844 as a Sunday law. Shut door, I get all of that. But the way this is structured here, it's a different application. I'm trying to use her structure to do that.
Okay, in Miller,
Louder.
the Miller case, we could see issue the time, Miller giving a time. So in our time there you can see.
Where can you see Miller given a time?
Before 1818.
In 18, so this should be way back here.
Yes.
And he's given the time for?
He's saying 25 years.
He's given the time for this event.
Yes.
Okay?
So in our education also, in the period of before Sunday law, there will be a prediction of issues relating to it.
You've got to speak loud, your volume keeps on going down, they can't hear at the back.
I'm saying that there will be a prediction
Of what?
Of time.
Of what? Predicting this?
Yes.
So back here you think we're going to predict that when that's going to happen?
Yes.
Do we agree? Sister Emma?
Yeah.
So you agree you're going to predict time out of your own dispensation, or out of the dispensation in which you're in. You're in this dispensation, you're going to project time out of that.
Or are you making a difference between that and thinking time?
Sunday law dispensation, latter rain, harvest, former rain. So so in the former rain, you think you're going to be able to predict waymarks in the future. Okay? Sorry? So the only reason I'm asking is when he makes these predictions back here, he's wrong in his prediction. He predicts incorrectly. It's only when you're in the dispensation that he predicts that the prediction is correct. That's why I was asking the question, can you predict outside of your dispensation? Sister Emma?
No, then in the dispensation.
Okay. So let's read the passage. (1977) PGD FSDA 96.3. This is Dempsey's book. The Origins of the Seventh-day Adventist Theology, Foundations of the Seventh-day Adventist Message and Mission. Sorry, I did that wrong. Foundations of the Seventh-day Adventist Message and Mission. This is page 96. Okay. The reason why I don't like this coding, I don't know if you even see it, if you can do the coding on your phones. Don't you just go to the book? How would you find this? I think you just go. I think you just type in FSDA normally, so the other stuff doesn't really help. Give you a couple of minutes to find that. So we're in FSDA 96.3. Have we found it?
Yeah.
Yep. Brother William, you found it?
I am finding it.
You don't have it? You don't have it on your phone, or you? Okay. This enthusiastic revival of missionary enterprise was interpreted as the exact fulfillment of the parable of the 10 virgins. What is a revival? My brother, what does revival mean?
Okay. It's like.
It is, not it's like.
Okay.
I thought you were going to be a parable.
Okay, revival is being awakened from a spiritual death or spiritual stupor or slumber.
Okay, so it's been brought. What did you say?
Being awakened.
It's been awakened from sleep. Anyone else?
To revive, to bring back to life.
To bring back to life. So, tell me what the difference is. Tell me what an evangelistic meeting is.
Sorry?
An evangelistic meeting. Evangelism, an evangelistic meeting. What is that? What is it? Who's it for? What is it?
For revival.
You think an evangelistic meeting is for revival? Brother Majid, what's an evangelistic meeting?
To win souls to Jesus.
Which souls?
Unbelievers.
So unbelievers who are non-Christians, you do an evangelistic meeting because you're going to give them the gospel.
Or non-Adventists, not perspective.
So non-believers. First time. That's what an evangelistic meeting is. Okay? So it's targeted Gentiles. Are you okay with that? Tell me what a revival meeting is.
A revival meeting is...
Don't look at the passage, just tell me what a revival meeting is.
A revival meeting is the one which involves those who have been there, but they something.
Just tell me who. Whose revival meetings are? Who are they for?
For the believers.
For believers.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are different types of meetings. One is for an unbeliever and one is for a believer. So if we've established that, so it's a revival meeting. Why are you doing a revival meeting for? Why are you doing a revival meeting for a believer?
I think because when the believers see themselves, they are not contented with that condition.
They're not content with their condition, so we're going to call that dead. And what are you telling them?
They should resurrect.
They should resurrect. If they're not happy with their condition, dead, how can they be a believer? What is that telling you? That before their unhappy situation, what condition were they in? A happy condition. What does revival mean? We'll do grammar. Sister Emma? That's too quick. Revival.
Re means again.
Okay, so we're going to break the word into two parts. Re means again, and vival, live. So it means live again, because what's inbuilt into that? What are you suggesting?
They were alive before, and then somehow you died, so now you've got to come back.
So they were alive before, and now they're dead, and now they're alive again. Are we okay with that? Okay, so we're in here, FSDA 96.3. First sentence, the enthusiastic revival of missionary enterprise. So all I want to pick up is what the word revival means. Revival comes from two words, again and live, which means live again. A revival meeting is not an evangelistic meeting. Evangelistic meeting are for non-believers or people who have always been dead. So before you came alive, what were you? You were dead. So the evangelistic meeting would be here. This would be the evangelistic meeting, and this would be the revival meeting, because revival meetings are for believers. Evangelistic meetings are for non-believers. And the reason you're having a revival meeting is because the people are dead who used to be alive. Are you okay with that? So why have I emphasized that? Because it says the enthusiastic revival of missionary enterprise. What does that mean? Sorry?
The word missionary enterprise was the whole sentence.
So let's go with missionary enterprise. What is missionary enterprise?
The endeavors to win people.
Sorry?
The activities to win people.
So this is the work that they're doing to save Gentiles, and it says now it's going to be revived. If it's revived, what had happened to... So when we did this to the individual, but the context is missionary work. So the missionary work was what before, at the very beginning it was dead, then it went alive, which means they were doing missionary activity, and now you're going to revive the missionary activity. What had happened to it? It had died here. So the missionary activity had died, and now it's going to come alive again. It's going to spark into life. We can see that. So without reading any of the rest of the passage, let's go into Millerite history, and let's put a line here. So we've got the revival, but this is not about an individual. What's the theme of the revival that's been spoken of? What's the theme?
Missionary enterprise.
Okay, I'm just going to call it the work. That's what the theme is. So let's put in, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 4 waymarks. Let's put in the waymarks.
I'm a bit behind there.
You don't understand what I've done?
Yeah, the structure that is still remaining tries to make me think that revival and evangelization are the same, because it's lining with living and living. First try to explain.
So, a person was dead, he's a Gentile, and they go to an evangelistic meeting and they become alive. So they're alive as a Christian. Then their religious experience dies, so they're a Christian in name, but they're not a Christian in their experience. So they go to a revival meeting and they become alive again. Okay? So this is at the individual level, but we're not talking about a person. This is the person that we spoke about. In this context, the person is what? The person equals the work, the missionary work. So now we're going to do the same thing about the missionary work. So here, what is going on? What's dead?
The Gentile.
No, what's dead?
Oh, the work is dead.
The work is dead. There's no work. Then some work happens, then the work dies, then the work comes back again. So I've got 4 waymarks on a line. So what waymark is this one, my brother?
Time at the end.
Time at the end. Who disagrees with that? Who doesn't understand that? Do you understand that? Yes? You understand? Everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so time at the end. What's this one? April 19th. I didn't hear what people said. So 0444. Everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
And so they're dead, and we'll just call this the tarrying time. And I'm just going to call this the summer. We can mark July or August, depending on how we want to do it. So we can create a structure here. Yeah, we can do all of that through half a sentence. Is that okay?
Yes.
Have I done something wrong?
No, the word below time there.
Time, tarrying time.
The one below the time there. Evangelism.
Oh, evangelism. This is the missionary activity. This is what this bit is, the 1840 bit, if you like. Remember when she compares the glorious manifestation of the power of God? That's what this history here is, 1840, really. But when she does it here, she just says 40 to 44 is all glorious, but we know it's not exactly all glorious. There's some black spot there. So what you can't see here is what? Between here and here it's black or dark or death. Are we okay with that? You can't see it in this story, but you can see it in the history. Yes? So we could do that and bring that into this story if we wanted. So we want to see something. This enthusiastic revival of missionary enterprise was interpreted as the exact fulfillment of the parable of the 10 virgins of Matthew 25 and was identified as the true midnight cry. You can see this from the chapter title. The subsection is, it goes down into all these different levels. And it's called the true midnight cry. That's what this section is. It begins page 96.2, the true midnight cry. Let me read that one first, because I went to paragraph 3. We'll go to paragraph 2. For months, Snow's calculations aroused but little interest. At the Exeter camp meeting, August the 12th to 17th, 1844, however, his exact date for Christ's return stirred many Millerites with an enormous enthusiasm. What I want us to pick up, he says, for months. Where do we normally mark when Snow's going to begin to do his work? We normally mark July, don't we? Yes. Yeah? So what do we know just from this statement? When he says, for months his calculations. So people know about his calculations before July, but they're not accepting it. You can at least go back to April, could possibly go back to February. However, his exact date for Christ's return stirred many Adventists, many Millerites, with an enormous enthusiasm, bringing their missionary endeavour to a peak. This is at Exeter, August. The response as a whole came quickly to be known as the 7th month movement. Why is it called the 7th month movement, my brother? Why is it called the 7th month movement?
Because the message, our first message was released that Christ will come on April 19, 1844. But later on it failed. And then they came to discover the time in July. I think that's why they call it 7th month movement.
Because July is the 7th month? Brother? Why is it called the 7th month movement?
Actually, what Samuel Slow was doing was predicting October the 2nd people based on the 10 days of the 7th month.
So why is it called the 7th month movement?
Because he was dealing with that month.
Which month?
7th month of our Shantara.
Okay, so Brother Paul's saying the 7th month is October, and you're saying the 7th month is July. So I just want to remind us, it says, for months, Snow's calculations aroused but little interest. So he's been doing the calculations before July. They first begin to accept it in July, as you say, but it says that it was in August, which is the 8th month, that their missionary zeal begins to come to a peak, and it's at that stage where they begin to really talk about the 7th month movement, where it begins to spread, and they call it, this is the 7th month movement. It's not really in July that they're doing that, even though they know about which month is which. So I think the 7th month movement is because their target is the 7th month. They're going to the biblical calendar. Although the Millerite leaders recognized some value in Snow's position, they were skeptical about the renewed emphasis on time and pointed out that in view of our Saviour's assurance that we know not the day or the hour, or as some read it, no man maketh it known, we should hesitate before we should feel authorized to attempt to make known the very day. What do we call that? A repudiation of your former beliefs. These people are backtracking. This is Miller that's doing this. For some weeks before the expected event, however, the leaders joined the 7th month movement and allowed Snow's views to be printed in the major Millerite periodicals and gave their full support. So I want us to pick up this. They allowed it. They gave their permission that it can now be put into the newspapers. After Snow's influence on the British Millerites, they also paid attention to the 10th day of the 7th month. This enthusiastic revival of missionary enterprise, he's talking about August, I've got the summer, are we okay there? Was interpreted as the fulfillment of Matthew 25, verse 6, parable of the 10 virgins, and was identified as the true midnight cry. According to Storrs and Snow are the people who are working together. It's a two-man team. The previously proclaimed midnight cry was but the alarm. Now the real one is sounding, and oh, how solemn the hour. I want to stop there. What have they spoken about now? What have we just learned?
Alarm. And the true midnight.
So we've got the alarm cry and the midnight cry. Okay? So where's the midnight cry? The true midnight cry? Here. So I'm going to put midnight cry, true. Where's the alarm? The alarm is April. The time of the end. Any other options? So we've got the time of the end and we've got April.
In between.
Sorry?
The time for evangelism. In between.
You're saying in between there? Any other thoughts? Sister Joy?
I think it's from 1840.
Okay, I want to go with Sister Joy's option. 1840 is the cry.
No.
Sorry? Okay, yes, so it's I'm going to call it the cry, and he's calling it the alarm. Okay, Sister Joy, why 1840? Why not the time of the end?
Because it is from
Louder, please.
It is from 1840 that the people join in the proclamation of the message of Christ's soon return after a wonderful impetus is given to the movement.
Sorry. We can turn, I don't mind you turning, I know you're always speaking to me, but we've got to project our voice because the class can't hear. I'm not even sure why the people are at the back on the last row when there's plenty of room at the front. We could do it all in 2 rows. So maybe we should punish them, I don't know.
I'm saying that it is from 1840 that the people join in the proclamation of the message of Christ's soon return after a wonderful impetus has now been given to the message. Okay,
remember it's the revival of missionary enterprise. If we're going to personify the person, who is the missionary enterpriser? Who is that person? No, not Miller.
Leach.
No. Himes. I'm saying it's Himes. Himes is the engine for the Millerite movement. Without Himes, nothing happens. When does Himes come in?
1839.
39? 39? So he's coming in just before 1840. When he comes in, he starts selling Miller, hand over everything to me, and I'll start controlling this movement. And by 1840, everything's starting to come into play. So it's by 1840, because of his influence, things start getting distributed. He arranges his appointments, he starts the publishing work. Everything's happening because of Himes. So we've got this revival of the enthusiastic missionary work, and then we've got Litch, remember? Litch's prediction in 1840 is also going to produce this huge missionary activity. Miller on his own isn't really doing what we would call a missionary enterprise. He's doing missionary work. Without Himes, it wouldn't have turned into an enterprise. What is an enterprise? It's a business. And it's not sort of just like a one-man business. And if you just was like a plumber and you just had you wouldn't call that an enterprise, I don't think. An enterprise has this sort of idea of something grand and big. And by 40, it becomes an enterprise. It's worldwide. April 44, that wasn't the alarm. 1844 was the failure of the alarm. They gave an alarm, they gave a cry, and it failed his. So it's not 44, that wouldn't be the alarm. In fact, if I would say that there's an alarm, I'm saying, what am I saying that the alarm is? I'm crying out and I'm saying, in April 44, Christ is about to return. Isn't that what I'm alarming people with? So I have to give it before that. So it can't be that. We could have said, time of the end. But I'm suggesting the characteristics of the cry don't fit the time of the end. It's not an enterprise. It's too small. The message isn't even confirmed. Miller himself is a bit sketchy. But by 40, it's an established truth. It's matured. And it becomes an enterprise. Are we okay with 40? So I'm saying 1840 is the alarm. And in the summer, it's the true midnight cry. So why did I want to bring us to here? Why did I want to bring us to this passage? What waymark have we just brought up? Which waymark have we just brought up in this story? 1840. So we've got 1840, and look, we've got 1840. So what is 1840? The alarm of what? It's the cry. I want to call it the loud cry or the midnight cry. If we're okay with that. So we're going to get this. They call it the alarm. Okay, I'm going to read the rest of that paragraph so you understand their thinking. Before I do that, I'm saying this is the midnight cry. Are we okay with that? All that's happening is saying this is the midnight cry as well. No change. But this one is the true one, and this one is the alarm one. Are we okay? They don't say this. They never throw away their past experience. Because if I said to you this was a true midnight cry, what would you say the other one was? The false midnight cry. And they won't destroy their religious experience. So they just say, we didn't make a mistake. Agree with that? They said, we didn't make a mistake. That was just the alarm. Just think about that. Everyone's trashing them, calling them their movement a failure, and they say, no, we didn't fail. That was just the alarm to prepare you to get ready. And if you're going to use that argument that it's an alarm, what are you building into your message about April 44? That it was not a failure, but it was a fulfillment of prophecy. And what was God doing? Testing. They're building into this, they call that alarm, that God was testing you. We might call it a false alarm. You know, if you work at a facility or a company or something, what did they do periodically with alarms? They test them, don't they? And we all know they're what kind of an alarm? A false alarm. They're not real alarms. And they make you go through the motion. So they're saying this was an alarm, it was a false alarm. We know it was a false alarm, but it was to test who was going to behave properly and who wasn't. So who ran out of the building at that false alarm, or who said, it's only a false alarm, we don't believe it. The people who didn't follow through with the rules failed the test. I want us to see all of that built into this concept of alarm. Can we see that? They don't throw away their past experience. They acknowledge it and they explain it. So we do the same. And so I'm saying what we're doing now today, when we go back into our previous history and we question 9/11, we question methodologies that we have used, and we say, maybe it wasn't right, maybe it was, more maybe it wasn't. I want to use this kind of concept. So it's not about mistakes, it was alarms. People were being tested whether they'd follow through. And if you followed through with the alarm, now you get to the true revival. Are we okay with that? Let's just read this, how they explain it. The previous proclaimed midnight cry, so it is the midnight cry, was but the alarm. He doesn't tell you when that cry was given. I'm saying the cry was given in 1840, once Litch had confirmed the day for the year principle. Once he had done that, the message is established. It now goes worldwide. Revelation 10. This is the cry of the message here at the time of the end. So I want to take that one out as well, then, if you're okay with that. Not the time of the end, not April, but it's for 1840. It's going to give the logic. Now the real one is sounding, and oh, how solemn the hour. He interpreted the 10 virgins, the parable, so he interpreted the virgins of the parable, not anymore as symbolizing mankind in general, as Miller had done, but as the professed believers in the Advent of 1843. As the first disappointment, he felt that the virgins entered the tarrying time because they all slumbered and slept on the subject of the exact time of the second Advent. But the true midnight cry aroused them at midnight, so that the believers in the imminent return of Christ began searching their Bibles to verify the validity of the new insight into the exact date of the Parousia. What is the Parousia? Second Advent. I don't know about you, but when I read that, doesn't that sound exactly what's happened in this movement since when to when? Back from 2012 to 2014 to 2018. To me, I'm just thinking, this person is a prophet prophesying our own history. I don't know if you can see that. I just like, when I read that, I'm thinking that we should be scared, I think, about the huge mess that we've made in our work. When you see what that, we've repeated the mistake to the very letter. I just find that really interesting. So, let's go back to our subject. What they've done is they've realized that the parable of the 10 virgins is at a different scale. It's not Christians and the world, it's what? Sorry? It's not the Christians and the world, which is mankind. It's not a world level, it's much smaller. It's between the Millerites and the Protestant churches. It's between Christian and Christian, not between Christian and the world. Where have we heard that before? Church and the world, Christian and Christian. Parable of the wheat and the tares. Jesus says what? World and church. Ellen White says Christian and Christian. Was their original application correct?
No. Yes.
It has to have been correct. They said this was the alarm. They didn't say it's a mistake. The original application is correct because it's the church against the world. And once all of that goes, then you begin to see how it gets refined. So what I'm saying is, if we make an application here, 1840 is what? The loud cry. And what's 18? Okay, what we're going to do now is we've created another waymark. Are we okay with that? This is 44, and this is the summer. The summer of 44. So when you come back up here, we've created another waymark here. We've got Sunday law, another waymark, close of probation. What waymark is that?
True love.
So this is the true loud cry. If that's the true loud cry, what is it about the Sunday law? It's just the alarm. I don't want to use the false loud cry, but it's the alarm. It's not the real one. There's some things in the loud cry of the Sunday law that need some refining, need some editing, need some correction. We okay with that? You try teaching that in this movement, who would believe you? At the Sunday law, we're going to make some mistake in some shape or form, and it's going to get corrected here, or it's going to get refined. If we don't want to say mistake, it gets refinement. What's my evidence for that? Okay, I'm going to go back to the evidence which Brother Robert just said a minute ago. This is dangerous to do because it's not a true witness. It's not a true witness, so that's why. So be careful. It's dangerous. I'm saying this is 2014, and this is what? 18, and this is 2019. It's testing you. We didn't want to say 2019. We want to say Raphia. So this is when the people said, if you come to the Fords, how do you say Shibboleth? If you say it correctly, you can pass. If you say it incorrectly, you get destroyed. So that was my test. She said, Rafi, you failed the test. So 2014, 2018, 2019. What are we saying in 2014? Sorry? What are we saying in 2014? Can you hear the clicking? Sorry, so 2014 I got distracted. Okay, so 2014 is the alarm. But 2014, we're saying time. So we've got time there. But we said this is the Sunday law. It wasn't the Sunday law. And what we were predicting, so if we come back here, 1838 would become what? 2012. So we're predicting something here. What are we predicting? I want to say COP, close the probation. If that's what the thinking is, Sunday law, close the probation. Was it right or wrong? Wrong. Because we predict, we're actually, I've got this Rafi, I'll put it in parentheses. I want to call this COP. I'll put all of that in parentheses. COP is what the target is. What we were talking about in 2012 is what? What were we really predicting? We were predicting the close of probation, and we said it's going to come here in 2014, just as they were doing. So it's a false alarm, it's a mistake. You want to call it mistake? Now let's go with the false alarm. What happens if you don't run out of the building when the alarm goes, and you say this is a false alarm? You failed the test. If you failed the test of 2014, you're done for. It's all done and dusted, it's finished. You have to have passed the test to move on. So when we've got this, which was the loud cry, the midnight cry, the false one, then you come to 2018, and then what are we saying? This is the true cry. This is the true cry for the close of probation. So we can line up 1840 and the summer of 44. Anything else that we can do? Is everybody okay with this? Is this okay or not? Are we doing something wrong?
I think you should repeat again.
Okay, so I want to get someone else to repeat it. Someone else repeat it. What? How they see it? Who wants to go? Someone? Brother Rogers, go.
Okay. In the morning we were discussing GC 611.
Can you hear him?
In the morning we were discussing GC 611, and we were able to draw a number of conclusions from that quotation. And in summary, GC 611 is that upper line that we see on the board. That one. So the Nell has taken us to a book by Damstige to try and understand something, because when we read GC 611, Ellen White was paralleling our history with Millerite history. So we are going to Damstige's book to try and understand how he defines Millerite history. So we have come to his book, and he's going to speak about the revival of missionary work. So we have defined what a revival is. A revival is a combination of two words, re and vive. Vive means live, re means again. So to live again. So someone was alive, died, and going to live again. So we have done that. We have shown that what Damstige is trying to portray is Millerite history. There was a time there was missionary work, which our sister Joy marked from 1840. That missionary work dies when what they were predicting fails, if we use that language. Then it's revived again when snow comes up with the true midnight cry. So when you go to his book, Samuel Smith is going to...
1 second. Are you okay so far?
Yeah.
Carry on.
When you go to Damstige's book, he calls the light that Samuel Snow comes up with in the Psalm of 44 the true midnight cry. So naturally, if we were to take that and come back to 1840 where we're marking on a cry, we'll call it the false midnight cry. But the Millerites don't want to do away with their message. So they don't call it a false midnight cry, but they call it an alarm. And we are saying that when they were giving an alarm, it was applying to a large extent of people, mankind in general. But when we come to the true midnight cry, it was only applying to the Millerites. Now one thing we noticed when they began to give the cry in 1840, simply the cry is that they are predicting the second advent of Christ, using time, in the spring of 44. So in 1840 you have time pointing to the spring. When you come to the summer, you have time pointing to the autumn for the coming of Christ. So the time in summer that is pointing to the advent of Christ is called the true midnight cry. The one behind is the midnight cry, but it's an alarm. So then we have taken that and brought it down to our history. So what we need to ask ourselves, when did we have in our message as a people the first time when time was used to predict something? And we identified that is 2012 when 2014 was predicted. So like it didn't come to pass, so we are going to call it, we are going to partner with 1840 and call it the cry or an alarm. But that alarm, what we have identified in that history, why the Millerites don't want to destroy their message, they are going to identify that that alarm was meant to test the people of God. So those who fail the test of the alarm don't participate in the midnight cry. So then we have 2012 time being predicted, 2014 for a close of probation, and we are saying this was meant to test this movement. So again, what we need to look for in our movement is see again when does the subject of time come back predicting something. And I think we have seen that in the movement in 2018 through the ministry and labors of Sister Tess.
So maybe we could get more out of this, and I think we could, but I want us to see this was an exercise to take as just a normal a normal Spirit of Prophecy quote, GC 611. It's an important quote that we use, and I say this respectfully, instead of playing around with the quote, take it as it is with the structure that's given, and I'm suggesting you get more light than if you twist it and do an application like this one. If you stick to it the way that Ellen White wants us to see it, in the framework that she's given, and the simple way is that, I'm saying 1840 is the Sunday law. 1844 is the close of probation. If we keep the structure that she gave us, you can see a whole lot of light coming out, which explains many of our own experiences, shows us what's going to happen in the future, and I think it's really neat. And I don't think you would have seen any of that if we had done it this way. I'm not opposed to this, but I'm saying this one doesn't create the same light, at least from my perspective, that this one does. And all it's based upon is a simple understanding of Millerite history. I went to the book, but all of us know that. And maybe we don't all know that in the detail that we should. And the key for me was that there are two midnight cries. And if you see the two midnight cries, you know that one of them is 1840 and another is the summer of 44. When we bring that into this history, it teaches us something that we already know, that we learn from early writings 277 paragraph 1. Or when we went to 240, I think it's 240, early writings, which is the Advent Movement Illustrated. And what did we see there? In the Loud Cry chapter, you've got the third angel's message running through history. And what did my brother say? What question did you ask? It gets empowered in 2 steps. And you said, well, I think you was asking, well, how can it be empowered in 2 steps? How does that work? And then the same thing in the Millerite history. You get the second angel's message arriving, and then it's running through history, and then it gets empowered. So you have these 2 steps again. And we can see now that when you take the Millerite history from 40 to the summer of 44, and bring it down into this history, 40 to summer of 44, how it can line up with the Sunday law, and you said the true loud cry, which would be the alarm of the loud cry, that you've got the same 2 waymarks being brought into here as the third angel's message is beginning to be empowered. It's in 2 steps. First, the alarm, and then the true cry. Even if you don't understand the implications of that, and people are saying this message is complicated, and it is, because I'm saying I don't know if we fully understand all the implications of what that means. It's teaching us that it's happening in 2 steps, and the first one is like nothing happens, or nothing that you can even see. Let me ask you a question. If we're going to make a parallel to this, this history here, Sunday law history, what verse are we in? Daniel 11, verse 41. And it says, Edom, Moab and Ammon come in. We know that. We expect that. Yes? Okay? So that's all good and well. Come to 2014. When people start coming into this movement in 2014, when people start leaving this movement in 2014, how many of you, whoever the you are, both here and watching, how many of you recognized what was happening? Who knew in 2015 that that person who just entered the movement, his name was Edom or Moab? Who knew that? I'm going to suggest no one. Now we're in 2018 and we recognize it because I'm suggesting it. Do we see that? Do we get that logic? So when we've gone into 1141 and we think we know what that verse looks like, I'm saying, do we actually know what that history really looks like? When we say Edom, Moab and Ammon come in, when are Edom and Moab and Ammon coming in? What brings them in? The loud cry brings them in. Which loud cry is going to bring them in? Is it the alarm one or the true one? Now we have to start thinking about that, because if we're saying it's this one, the alarm one, when people came in our history, we didn't even know they were coming in. We didn't even know who they were. It's only now in 2018, when we've got the true loud cry, the true midnight cry, we're saying, you know, all these people that are coming in, all these priests that are coming in or about to come in, they're who? Edom, Moab and Ammon. And now we can go back and say, oh, that's what's been happening for the last 4 years, and we didn't even know who they were. There's things about the Sunday law that we are still not recognising properly, that we need to understand about our own history, that will teach us about the Sunday law history. If you don't get it right now, you won't get it right then. So there's many little gems that we can see about the Sunday law history if we can understand our own history here. So 2018 is the true loud cry. 2014 is the loud cry, but it's the alarm. 2012 we've got the prediction. So we can see how everything is stacking up. We've got now 3 reform lines. This one you have to be very careful of, because this one was created from this reform line. So it's a circular argument. Do we understand that? Be careful if you're going to teach this, as this is being a tertiary witness. Depending on who you ask, people will kick back and say this is not a tertiary argument, and I'd probably be inclined to agree with them. But I think because we've gone through the history, we have enough information to show that I think this is correct. So that's why I'm just showing this, that you can line it up. This is not true line upon line. Do we understand that? Yeah? So don't go away and say this proves all of this. It's not a pucker proof, but I think it's a witness to show that the structures are lining up. And to me, that's teaching 2 things. It's teaching us about what this structure looks like based upon the Millerite structure, and it's showing that this structure that we've got is actually correct, because this is the same structure as this one. It's just a fractal of it, and it's all based upon this line.
In the quotation by dance.
Louder?
In the quotation by dance that we identified the virgins. We changed from the church in the world to the church in the church. So how can that reflect?
So your question is, when they're doing the original one here, they think about it in a different way. So I don't know the answer to that, and the class is finished, so I've got out of it. There's going to be a change of understanding of how the virgins identify themselves. So the self-identification of virgins is going to change between here and here. I will suggest one thing. Back here in this history, from 2014, when we started developing here, and I'm going to call it a period of time, when we start giving this cry, who did we say we're giving the cry to?
Adventist.
The Adventist, or I'll use the word Levites. We're saying we're going to cry to the Levites, and that was wrong, because now we're saying we're giving the cry here to who? Priests. So at least on that scale, we've got that wrong. And people are still struggling with this, that they think that this loud cry here is for Levites, and the loud cry for the Levites is a lot further down the road before we start crying to them. So our identification of who the cry is targeted at, which is to do with who the virgins are, has changed from back here in this history to where it is now. Hopefully we're all sure that the loud cry that we're giving now before Raphia 2019 is to call priests into this movement, because the scale has changed. Before, and I'm not even talking about years before, months before, even in the summer, and I suspect even probably in the movement where people aren't keeping up with the messages, with the truths or the new light, they still think this cry that we're giving now is to Levites to call them out of Adventism, and it's not. So you can see there's a discrepancy about the scale of the virgins and how they operate. I know the dynamics are not quite right or the same, church in the world, then the church in the church. But I think you can make an argument that it is that the church in the world would be this movement and the Adventist structure, as opposed to a different way of approaching it. So I'm being a bit vague on that. Quickly, because my time's run out. Is my time run out? Is it fine? Okay.
So I want to ask a question on back to from 2012 to 2014. Was there any detention on that in that issue? Our side.
Okay, I'll have to think about that. So what was the agitation? Okay, I don't know. I think I have an idea, but I need to formulate my thoughts. I'll wait for other people to give me their thoughts, and then I'll add mine at the end. Yeah.
So in that line of history, we identified that between 1840 and the summer when they started giving the thing like credit the receipt and legislate the turning time. From the quotation we read from downstairs, we are remarking that this history of ours.
Okay, so I don't want to answer a complex question because I think there's a bit more detail. I know it's Friday. Oh, it's Friday today? Oh, we can do it this evening. So hold the question till this evening. I want to ask a question. This is a silly question. How many years is it between 40 and 44?
4 years.
And between 14 and 18? Can we do that? Are we allowed to do that now, saying it's 4 years and 4 years?
No.
No?
If you can do that, then we should be able to do summer to autumn.
Okay, so let's pray. Heavenly Father, we give you praise and thanks for your goodness and mercy. We ask for a special blessing upon the lines of thought that we're developing. I ask and pray for those of us who don't fully understand what we're teaching, the thoughts and ideas are not clear, that in our discussion, those who have gathered much will share with those who have gathered least, so that there will be an equality. May each of us be willing to share our thoughts and our ideas of what we're learning, so that all of us can be benefited and blessed by the truths that you're giving to us. We ask for a special blessing upon the food that we're to eat now. In Jesus' name, Amen.